Big Z Reviews. Spider-Man No Way Home is the newest Spider-Man film and the third of a first trilogy in the MCU, and the ninth, technically, if you count the animated one, recent Spider-Man film, and is actually the first of those MCU Spider-Man movies that doesn't immediately follow a huge event in the world. So this is really just a straight sequel to Spider-Man Far From Home. And it is really good.
When you botched that spell where you wanted everyone to forget that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, we started getting some visitors. From every universe.
So this Spider-Man film has all of the returning characters from the previous ones. You know, pretty much the main core three, as Tom Holland as Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and Zendaya as MJ, and Jacob Batalon as his guy in the chair, Ned. And it's also like one of the important additions in this film is, Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. And I really like that, like, especially sometimes when things go weird in the film, it definitely is, the way it's filmed is very reminiscent of Doctor Strange. Like, this is kind of like a bit of a Doctor Strange film at times, and it's really good at that. And it's funny, I rewatched all the Spider-Man movies leading up to this, and like, one thing I've always found with the MCU Spider-Man is that so far, and kind of including this one, we've never really had an actual Spider-Man movie. Like, it's always had an MCU movie. Like, what, the first one is right after Civil War, the second one is after Endgame, and this is kind of like, and Spider-Man's so young that he's not Spider-Man yet, really. And I always found, too, that it's weird. One of the biggest iconic parts of Spider-Man is that he's always saving people. And in all of the other films, good and bad, he saves a lot of people, even in this not part of the main storyline. And in all the other ones, in the MCU versions, he hasn't saved people. And any people he did save was caused by him screwing up. And there's a little bit of that, like, he saves a couple people, but still, he doesn't really save anyone just as non-plot essential. As part of the plot, he never saves anyone. And I miss that. I hope that whatever they do after this film, they kind of go back to him randomly saving people in the film that's not part of the film. I kind of love that part of Spider-Man. Even like the one short scene from like Family Guy, when like Spider-Man just randomly hops in and saves Peter, and it's like, everybody gets one. I kind of love that, and I miss that with him. But still, I think that Tom Holland is a really good Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Like the first one was kind of Spider-Man 1, but also Iron Man 3.5, and the last one was Spider-Man 2, but it was kind of like Endgame 1.5. It has kind of resolving all of the stuff that happened in Endgame. And this one is just, like I said, a straight sequel to Far From Home. And as that, I really appreciate it, because like when I rewatched them, like I didn't rewatch any of the other Marvel films, and it's like, at least in the first one, they kind of recap in his little short film at the beginning of it, what happened. They don't really do much in the second one other than just kind of recapping about the blip and the 5 years and stuff like that. But this one, you don't really have to know anything that happened before that's not in the other Spider-Man films, and I kind of appreciated that. And this is again John Watts as a director, and I'm still not 100% sure he's a real person, like, and not just an amalgamation of directors for Marvel and Disney. Like, I'm not sure it's not an actual Kevin Feige product, and they slap. But like Because like he's not even that. I don't think he's that present on social media or anything. And he doesn't. His films, like his, he doesn't have like a director's eye. I've always found like I've really liked these films, but there's nothing that artistic about them. And that continues. And even this one, a lot of the really cool stuff it does is kind of Doctor Strange. Like it's all stuff that the director of Doctor Strange, Scott Derrickson, I believe his name is, came up with, and that's I mean what are you gonna say? Like I mean they're great films, so he can't complain. But I've just always found like it's still I think he's improved over this trilogy. Like I mean the filmmaking is really good in this one, but it's just I don't know. I think he doesn't. A lot of the Marvel films, especially when they give them to more auteur directors, they feel like they're a special item. This one kind of doesn't. It just feels like an MCU film with Spider-Man in it, for better and for worse. But I like what he does. So this film is kind of really tough to talk about without spoiling. But I think I'll try to go out without any spoilers, and then I'll just jump into full spoilers with full warning, I think, towards the end. But for what not no spoilers, it is a really fun film, and it's funny, and there's some great moments in it, and it's bombastic. I mean, it's an excellent film that I would definitely recommend, especially if you're a fan of the MCU and of Spider-Man. Like like I said, you probably don't have to have watched all of the other MCU movies to get this, but I think you will be confused if you didn't watch the other Spider-Man movies. And because this, I think especially the last one, just because it's like a direct sequel to Far From Home. Because Far From Home, Mysterio, and like in the post-credit scene, Mysterio put all the blame on Peter Parker and told everyone that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and this is kind of like the fallout from that event. And he has to. It's kind of like because everyone knows Spider-Man, like it's kind of like paparazzi and everyone's around him and harassing him, and school life is completely different. And then like that there's him, they're seniors now and they're trying to get into college, but colleges are maybe not sure what to think about having Spider-Man on their campus. It creates an interesting thing. So he goes to Doctor Strange to try to do something to change stuff, and things go wrong, and then you have a movie. And that's like what's in the trailer, and that's pretty much what you can talk about without spoiling. Other than say, like in the trailer, they show some of the people that come up, so it's easy to tell that they're like the villains that were killed in the previous Spider-Mans from other multiverses, come into this one, and shenanigans occur. And I really like what they did with pretty much all of the different villains that were brought in. Like some of them, like the Amazing Spider-Man universe, some of the villains is really stupid. And they didn't change much for the Lizard, which kind of sucks, but what you're gonna do. But they did change a lot for Electro, Jamie Foxx, and he looks a lot better. They make jokes about it like in film too, so I mean I think that's great. And they also do like some of the stuff. I'm trying to think of what is in the trailer. So yeah, the Goblin is in the trailer, and the Goblin, he kind of like he has his stuff at the first, but then he gets kind of a more MCU version of him, and it's really cool. Like I like what they do with that, and Willem Dafoe is amazing. But Doc Ock is also, he's pretty much the same, but of course he doesn't have the puppet arms. He has like CG arms now. But I mean he's great, and I mean everyone they bring in is great, and I love a lot of what they do. I mean, the movie's a little long, but I feel like some people complain about that, but I honestly didn't feel this length. Like I liked the length of it, and enjoyed it, the whole way through. So now on to full spoilers. But before full spoilers, I will say I'll give it like a 9 out of 10. I would say for ranking all of the Spider-Man films, I say watching them again. Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2 is so good. I probably like Spider-Man 2 more, but Spider-Man 1 started it all, and they're so close to each other. Like Spider-Man 1 would be number 1. Then Spider-Man 2 would be number 2. And then I would probably go uh, Spider-Man Homecoming. And then I would go, I think probably this film, Spider-Man No Way Home. And then I'll probably go Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And then I would go Spider-Man 2 in the MCU, the Far From Home. And then I will go probably Spider-Man 3. And then Amazing Spider-Man 1 and Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's my personal order. Although it might change, like, depending on how rewatchable this film is. So now, full spoilers. Like, the big thing that everyone was talking about, and everyone kind of knew that was going to happen, but you weren't sure it was going to happen, is Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are in this film. And I really like what they do with them. Like, I love, like, the scenes that they bring him in is, like, Ned, he gets, like, the ring, and he's, like, the teleportation ring, and he's able to use it, and he's just trying to get a hold of their Peter, and he keeps getting the other Spider-Man. And it's probably, like, the funniest scene in the movie, because, like, Ned's mom is like freaking out and everything, and like asking him to get cobwebs off the ceiling, and it's hilarious. Like, that's definitely like the funniest parts of the film. And there's also some heartfelt parts, like Andrew Garfield like has a redemption arc, and there's also really interesting things, for the MCU Peter Parker, because he sees that Tobey Maguire, his best friend, tried to kill him and then died. And Andrew Garfield, his girlfriend died. And it's like, there's a lot of emotional stuff with Peter Parker, depending on, like, does he want to, put his loved ones in danger, especially after Aunt May dies. And it's interesting, because, like, before, we didn't really know what happened before he came in Captain America Civil War. Like, we didn't know if there was an Uncle Ben. So now, definitively, there was never an Uncle Ben, and there never, Aunt May is a single mom, to Peter, and so that's kind of like a key archetype of Spider-Man, is doing something that causes his loved one to die, and in this one, that's Aunt May, and I wasn't sure, like, it was kind of so sad, because I kind of, you hate that to happen, but at the same time, it's so important for a Spider-Man, and it makes sense if there is no Uncle Ben, and they have her deliver beforehand, with great power comes great responsibility, and it's great. And I love too the interactions between the three Spider-Man, and the only thing I feel like the suits, when you watch the movies and you compare them, they're very definitive, but when they're all using the same CGI in an MCU film, the suits blend a little bit together. Like, I wish they tried to stay more true to how they looked in the films, so they're more easily identified when they're fighting the Sinister Six. I think there's 6 of them, but they're fighting all the villains, and there's this, like, but I did honestly just love these moments. And Andrew Garfield looks great. I mean, he hasn't aged a day. Tobey Maguire has aged a lot. But I like what they did. The only thing is, like, when they mention, they talk about, like, what they did on their worlds. And the only ones that they mention are the ones that we saw, on film. And it's kind of like, it's obviously that they're older, so stuff happened. So it's almost like, well, you could have hinted at they had other battles that they had after we stopped watching them. It would have been interesting. But honestly, I kind of love both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and I would love to see them come back in some form. Because, I mean, Sony does still own Spider-Man. It's just they are partnered with these Spider-Man films in the MCU. And I would love to see maybe Old Man Spider-Man, like continue on with the Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire and see what's going on with his life. And he said with Mary Jane, it's complicated, and I love that. But like, it'd be interesting to see, like, are they married? Did they have kids? Or is he lying and he is just a single man in an apartment and sad? Like, I would kind of love that. And also, like, if they wanted to do a Miles Morales story, you could do a Miles Morales story, like, at Peter Parker, like Tobey Maguire could kind of be the mentor for him, or Andrew Garfield. Because really, the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man was really, that's more the Ultimate universe in the comics, and that's where Miles Morales was. So, I mean, I kind of, if they were interested in doing it, I would love to see Spider-Man movies not in the MCU. Because I love Spider-Man in the MCU, but it's dilutes it a little when there's so many other heroes. In the other worlds, it's really just him, And, I just, honestly, I really love this film. Like, I gave it a 9. Like, I could go higher. I'm not sure how rewatchable it'll be. Because, like the last one, Spider-Man Far From Home, like, I haven't watched it that much. Like, it's not that rewatchable. I still enjoy it, but it's not as rewatchable as some of the other Spider-Men. And for this one, I really I want to see how it holds up. But I could move higher in my rankings. But it is really fun, and it kind of, I love that sets up too. Like, if like there's the first, like, after the end of the film, there's a Venom, essentially a Venom after credit scene, which is kind of fun. It also sets up Black Suit Venom in the MCU, and that could be an interesting story to be told there. And there's also, they're so weird though, I think it's the first time they've done it in a while, where like the post-credit scene is just a straight up trailer for the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse Madness, whatever it's called. But in the end, that he doesn't have this Tony Stark built suits anymore, and he kind of made his own suit. And again, it looks kind of comic book accurate to an era of his. Like, it looks really cool, and then it looks like he's gonna be down on the street, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And I feel like the next trilogy, if they do it, it could be like a real Spider-Man film and not just an MCU film. I really look forward to what they'll do next. And I would definitely recommend seeing this film if you feel safe doing it and if your place around isn't too busy. For me, I would have loved to go to IMAX to see it. Like, but I said, the closest IMAX theater to me is like 2 hours away. It's like outside of Scranton, and from the office, and that's where I usually go to see an IMAX theater. But I was worried because, like, I know COVID cases are really high in that area right now. And there's also, like, I knew that it was going to be busy, So instead, my brother and I went at 4 o'clock on Sunday to my local theater. And it wasn't bad at all. Although it's funny, when we left, the parking lot was packed. And I actually got parked in a bit. Like, I don't know, like, it's kind of in the side. But if you watch any of my other videos, I've lost a lot of weight in the past 3 years. I have 273 pounds, but I was kind of parked in, and it was a really narrow space to get in. I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna get in this car? And I was like, I tried it, and I was like, oh, I can squeeze through fine. It's like I don't, my brain doesn't realize how. Like, I'm nowhere near as wide as I was. But, I think I would definitely recommend going out to theaters to see it if you feel safe. And it's a great film. I really loved it. So thanks for watching. And if you want to see any more of me, you can subscribe down below. Thanks.